Good evening. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here with us today. We are very pleased to welcome those of you that have been with us and also those who are new to join. Today, we mark the third day of our Outreach 2021, and I, Khushi Jiravla and Apurva Narode, are proud to be able to host this evening. Before we get started, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to our sponsors, Geocentric and Samarth Academy and D-Space. As Carl Sagan often said, somewhere something incredible is waiting to be known. In the cosmos is within us. We made up of star stuff. We are made a way of the universe to know itself. After the earth dies some 5 billion years from now, after it's burned to a crisp or even swallowed by our own sun, there will be other worlds, stars, galaxies counting into being, and they will know nothing of a place called Earth. Since the beginning of civilization, humanity has wondered whether we are all alone in this universe. The recent discovery of the exoplanets and life sustaining gases like methane, biogenic phosphine on these planets have given us the hope of having life beyond Earth. Not speaking much on, I would like to call Mr. Mahesh P., who is Head Research of SSERD, to take over the session.
Right. Thank you, Kushi, for that introduction. Can you guys hear me? All right, perfect. Vishesh, can you share the screen? I'm so sorry for the background noises. So, good evening, everyone. Yes, I'm Mahesh. I'm the head of research and development here at SSERD. And welcome to another session, which is again part of the World Space Week celebrations, which is happening. And today I'm going to talk about something very exciting and very interesting. For me, and well, for most of the people, it's about aliens and ETs and UFOs and a lot of things. It's life beyond Earth. So that is what we're going to discuss. Now, the reason I have put a weird alien picture in the first slide itself is not exactly to scare you, but yeah, we're going to be talking about aliens in the coming slides. So yeah, heads up. Next slide, Vishesh. All right, thank you. So points of discussion. This is what I'm going to talk about in this session, starting with the profound or the fundamental question itself: what is life? And with that, we'll be talking about the search for alien life, how exactly we find alien life out there. What are we doing? What are the missions that we are putting forth to do that? And then humans in outer space. Well, we humans are not exactly part of Earth. We also live in outer space. So, yes, we'll be talking about that. And apart from that, yeah, so after that, and we're going to be talking about UFOs and ETs, extraterrestrial intelligence, and the UFO sightings, and all those conspiracy theories, which does rounds in social medias and a lot of TV channels as well. And later, we'll be discussing about reaching out to ET, how exactly we plan to communicate with the ETs, if the aliens do exist, because we haven't answered that question yet. So yes, exciting and interesting things. So with that, Vishesh, next slide. Yes, thank you. Now let's start with this question itself. What is life? Because if you don't understand what life is, if you don't know the definition of life, it becomes very difficult for us to search for life. Because you might think life, the word life, is such a very common thing that you can find literally everywhere in your schools, in your colleges, in your researchers, or even in your day-to-day routine talks that you have with your friends and folks. But this is something which doesn't have a proper or a particular definition in your books. Different professionals and different scientists will come up with their own definitions. A biochemist will tell you a different definition. A biologist will tell a different definition, or a chemist will tell you something really different from what biologists will tell. So yes, we don't have a specific definition for life, but we need to define it if we have to go forward with the other sections. So as I told you, since we don't have any definitions, we'll not exactly define life, but we'll try to understand what life is. So that should create a path for the other sections so that we can understand it very easily. Okay, now coming up with this term called life. What exactly is life? How exactly we define life here on Earth? Because the life that we call it as life here on Earth might be completely different elsewhere in the universe. The life might be of different kind and different shapes and different forms in the expanse of the universe. It might not even have the basic elements that our life is based on, like carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, phosphorus, and other bunch of chemical elements that you find in your periodic tables. So yes, next slide. Now, life comes in different forms and different shapes here on Earth. It can be as simple as a sapling, a plant, a microbe starting with an amoeba, the unicellular organisms, and extending to multicellular organisms, a human child, the coral reef, and other exciting sea life which dwells in the oceans and seas. Next, Vishesh. It can also include algae and moles that you don't really even think or care about, right? Because those stuff doesn't even helps us in our day-to-day activities. But again, those things are part of plant kingdom. Yes, they are also life. And we have insects, we have microbes, and the COVID virus, which is kind of very famous nowadays, which kills humans. That is again part of life. We have birds and animals. Next slide. Next one. Yeah, so you also have insects, you have also have bees, apes, where we evolved. Again, that is a theory. Kind of we have evidence, but not exactly. And we also have these mushrooms, part of fungus family. Now, all these things are considered as life here on Earth. Now, if you can see clearly, they come in different sizes and shapes. Now, not a single thing is relatable to another thing because all the things are different. But how exactly we define everything under a common term called life? So, what defines these things as life? Now, here is another interesting thing. Next slide, Rashesh. Yeah. Now, if I have these basic elements or the so-called ingredients, for example, the first one is carbon, we have hydrogen, we have oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and a bunch of other chemical elements that you could find in the periodic table. If I have these things, technically I can create life. If I can create any forms of life that I showed you in the previous slides, well, meaning I would become a god, or maybe God, there is nothing such thing as God. Well, that is again a debatable question. Let's not go there. So yeah, basically I can create life with these building blocks, the so-called chemical elements. Now there is one common thing among all the pictures I showed you. The different life forms, starting from the apes to the fungus, the algae, the single cellular organisms, the saplings, the human cell, literally everything. All these things have a one common thing. And what is that? Which is used to define the so-called Earth life. So, next slide, Vishesh. And that is nothing but, okay, it's stuck. Change the slide. Yeah. DNA. Yes. So all these things have one thing in common, which is DNA. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid, which is one of the fundamental thing that you can think of when you talk about life here on Earth. So why this specific thing is so relevant when we talk about life? Because whenever we talk about life here on Earth, there is one thing which makes up of almost all the life here on Earth. That's DNA. These are the fundamental blocks. Okay, the elements which I showed you in the previous slides, the nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and other things. So you can use those elements to create the DNA, the very DNA. Next slide. So this is what we define life here on Earth, DNA-based life forms. Now, if you have to look life elsewhere, we are searching for life based on this DNA. If you find DNA or something similar to DNA, well, you might think there are life forms, right? So that, well, this is the only definition we have. But as I told you before, what if the life elsewhere in the universe is completely different? What if it is not even made up of DNA? What if there is no hydrogen or nitrogen or carbon? Maybe it is. It might be based on silicon, a completely new element. Might be possible. We never know because the universe is so huge, and the combinations, the permutations, the combinations that exist, it is possible. It is possible for something to evolve based on a completely new element which we cannot even think of. So totally possible. But as far as we know, with the knowledge that we have and our definition of life, which is based on DNA, that is what we are telling the spacecrafts to look for, the DNA-based life forms. Also, we also tell the spacecrafts or the rovers which is traversing the other planets, all things to look for these fundamental building blocks of life, the basic elements. Okay, but again, if you think hardly, you can literally find all these elements throughout this universe. And how exactly you get these elements from? Where do you even get this? Not on Earth, right? Because Earth was formed 4.5 billion years ago, but universe has been existed more than 10 billion years. It's 13.7 billion years ago. I think that's an approximate number. So yes, universe has been here for a very long time. So where exactly did these elements came from? Well, almost all the elements on the periodic tables, I'm talking about the natural elements, not the man-made elements, came from just one place. It's stars. The stars are the refractories, and they are the sources of these elements. So that is where we get all these materials from. So, which means there is this quote in a book: "We are made up of star stuff," which is true because all these building blocks, all these chemical elements that you can find in our bodies or in the bodies of all the living organisms or even plants, we got these things from the stars. The stars explode, spilling out all its elements throughout the universe, and the planets forms around the stars, and that is how we get these elements. So yes, DNA-based life forms. Next slide. Okay, now with this definition of life forms, now we can search for alien life, right? The reason why I'm including the term called alien, because when you call life here on Earth, well, it's the normal life. But if there is something called life elsewhere, other than the universe, sorry, other than our planet Earth, well, you can call it as alien. Okay. So the search for alien life. Now there are two important things that you need to understand or uh, know if you talk about search for alien life, because these are two of the most important missions that we have put forward to search for alien life. Again, I'm talking of all these things under an assumption that we have alien life out there. Under an assumption there are aliens out there, there are life forms, intelligent life forms, so-called advanced civilizations outside. So, well, few people debate that we are the only life forms in the universe, and we are alone. There are no life elsewhere in the universe. If that fact is true, there is no point of we searching for alien life at all. But why exactly do we put out billions of US dollars or any other currencies every year to search for these things? Why do we even explore space to looking for answers? Well, I'll answer that question towards the end. There is something called as Fermi paradox and Drake's equation, which tells you the probability of finding alien life is really, really huge. All right, because the universe itself is very huge. So we'll come to that later. So for now, I'm going to talk about Kepler and SETI. So these are two of the important things that we humans have put forward towards finding an answer for the search for alien life. Next slide. Okay, let's start with Kepler. What is Kepler? Okay, Kepler was a person, but NASA came up with a mission. Uh, it's called as Kepler. It's a spacecraft. Well, it's a telescope, to put it in basic terms. It's a space-based telescope which we as in humans launched into outer space to look out for exoplanets. Now, talking about exoplanets, that's a very different thing. which you need to understand if you want to understand about aliens. Now, before Copernicus, we had Aristotle and other people who said, who came up with an idea called geocentric model of our solar system. Geo means Earth, centric means it's Earth-centered model. They said all the objects in the sky, all the planets, including Sun, revolve around Earth. So it's called geocentric model, which was not exactly true. Most of the people at that time believed that was the actual theory. But Copernicus came and he changed literally everything. He put forth what is called as a heliocentric model. He said that is absolutely wrong. Earth is not the center of the point here. Sun is at the center, and all the other planets revolve around it. And that is called as heliocentric model, sun-centered model, which was really, really accurate. And later Galileo came and he made observations like moons of Jupiter and phases of moon across the sky, and he came up with evidence and proofs for Copernicus's heliocentric model. And everyone agreed later. So heliocentric model till now. Now the thing here is, once Copernicus discovered that all the planets revolve around the sun, and people also knew there are billions of stars in the universe, which means the common intuition tells there might be other planets revolving stars, like our own planets revolving around the sun, which is again an example of a normal average size yellow star, right? So with that intuition and obviously guesses, well, that was right. There are planets which orbit other stars. And how do we know exactly that? Because we have missions, we have telescopes, we have evidence, we have proofs, and we have scientific data. One such as Kepler. So Kepler was launched in 2009, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, for only one purpose, to identify and find evidence of exoplanets. And it did a great job. Well, until the same month of 2018, Kepler found around 3,000 planets, which was really amazing. And 3,000 planets only in our galaxy, Milky Way galaxy. Okay. And by the way, universe has billions of galaxies. So okay, we will come to that those terms or numbers later. So yes, that's an insane number of planets, 3,000, because Kepler is not exactly a powerful telescope. Uh, Now you might be wondering how exactly we find planets, because when you look through telescopes, you can barely see Saturn or Uranus or Mars, because even if you look through powerful telescopes, you can barely make out the surface of these planets. How could you find planets orbiting around stars? Because stars are only visible as points of light, even if you look through telescopes in the open space, right? So how do you find something which orbits that tiny point of light? Now, there are a lot of methods where you can do that, and you have to kind of dig deep into astronomy. I'll give you a couple of methods here, right? So, for example, you have a source of light. Okay, I don't have a source of light with me. For example, okay, this pen here is a source of light, okay? Imagine this is shining light this way, right? Now, this is a star, okay? Now imagine there is an object which goes around this point of light. Now you're seeing from this vantage point. Okay. Now when you see the star, it will look like a point of light. But if an object, which in our case is a planet, crosses or travels across the surface of, okay, this is the point of light and this is my planet. If this crosses the surface of this point of light, the amount of light that is reaching you, it dips, right? The intensity decreases. So that is one of the method which Kepler uses to find exoplanets. If the intensity of the light drops, and with that data, you can find evidence for exoplanets, right? So that is one of the method which this mission uses to find exoplanets, and there are a couple of other methods, but for now this example is sufficient, I guess. So with that method, Kepler managed to find 3,000 planets, and the interesting thing here is, these planets also contain so-called habitable planets. And what do I mean by habitable planets? Now, as you know, we have 9 planets in our solar system, but life exists on just one planet, the third rock from our sun, which is Earth. We don't find life on Mars. We don't find life on Venus or any other planets. I mean, might be true previously, but now We don't have any evidences to prove that fact. So how can you be sure that there'll be life on those planets? Now, okay, talking about habitable planets. Now, there exists a region around the star, any star, called as Goldilocks zones or a habitable region, where water can exist in liquid forms. Right. Sorry for that. Yeah. So, habitable region. There exists a region around a star where water can exist in liquid forms. And why water exactly? Because water is considered to be one of the basic ingredients for life. We think life created, or maybe it's not exactly creation, it was a mere accident. But again, that is another debatable question. Life came into existence through water. So complex amino acids and other organic molecules got created in water. So again, without water, life doesn't exist here on Earth. Everyone knows that. So we also consider if other habitable planets have liquid water, maybe there might have been life in that planet. Life might evolve in that planet with water. So yes, that is how we define the Goldilocks zone or so-called habitable regions. So okay, next slide, Vishesh. Okay, now going forward with exoplanets, we have another mission called SETI, SETI. Now here, SETI stands for Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. So I'm not just talking about life, okay? I'm talking about intelligent life. What is the difference between apes or an insect and a human being? Intelligence, right? We can question ourselves. We can question our own existence. We can make sense of literally all the other things around us. So you can define intelligence based on that. So this mission, okay, first of all, this is a not for profit research organization. And okay, they have this wonderful name called SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And that is being operated from, I think, 1980s, if I'm not wrong. And what do these people do? They have this array of telescopes, basically antenna dishes, radio telescopes, looking for radio signals in deep space. So these are called ATAs, I think, Allen Telescope Arrays. Yeah. They serve one purpose, to look out for signals. They are like a huge speakers pointing towards the sky, listening for signals which might probably be of alien origin. So that is what these people do. They constantly watch the night sky or point their telescopes towards the sky, listening to signals, almost all the signals. Now, they hear signals every day because almost all the natural phenomena which is happening in the universe, like star explosions, star collapsing into black holes, or other phenomena, supernova explosions, all these things give out a lot of radiations like X-rays, microwaves, and radio waves. So, how do you exactly differentiate a signal which is coming from an alien planet and a natural event? Okay, so anyway, we're not going to discuss about that, but yes, they are listening to the sky or listening deep into space 24 by 7. So that is what this is setting. And okay, next. It's not that we have to look into deeper space or worlds orbiting other stars for life forms. We can also look for life in our own planet. Sorry, in our own solar system. Well, if you can see the picture, it looks like a very weird alien kind of planet, or a moon, or any other celestial body. This is Enceladus, one of the largest moon of Saturn. In fact, this is the fifth or sixth largest moon of Saturn, I think. So why particularly this moon? And for a fact, the moon is of 500 kilometers in diameter. To put that in perspective, it's barely larger than our state, Karnataka. Okay, 500 kilometers. So it's very tiny, but a very interesting moon. If you can see the surface has interesting geological uh, things going on. So the surface has valleys, ridges, canyons, craters, a lot of interesting things that you can find here on Earth. Now this is rocks, ice. Okay, everything is ice basically. There is no water. There is nothing. But how could this barren, icy surface harbor life? Why scientists are interested in this particular moon? Why are we planning out missions that will go and land on this surface to find life? Why life in this particular moon? Next slide. Why? Because during 1960s, if I'm not wrong, not 60s, 80s, I'm really bad with numbers. So we had a mission called Voyager, one of the deep space missions. Voyager was a spacecraft which we launched for a grand tour to photograph all the outer planets, starting from Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. And Voyager came up with these beautiful pictures of the planet, which gave the evidence that the Enceladus moon might be active. What do I mean by active? The spacecraft found geysers, icy particles shooting from the surface, like this. All right. Next slide, Vishesh. No one ever thought that there would be interesting active geological phenomena that will be happening on one of the barren moons of Saturn. Well, yeah, the Voyager mission was kind of a surprise. So what? Okay, what it means? We have a geyser. There are materials going in the form of jets over the surface. How exactly does it mean life? Well, the geysers and this phenomenon exist only because of one thing, which is a subsurface ocean beneath the 5 kilometer thick ice. So if you can see, the moon is revolving around Saturn, right? Now the moon is trying to pull Saturn towards it. The Saturn is trying to pull the moon towards it. That creates the tidal bulging, okay, in cyclic forms. So which means there is heat being generated beneath the surface of the ice. So that heat causes the ice to melt and create a subsurface ocean there. And in fact, since okay, you might think this is a very tiny thing, the sea might not be that huge. Well, in fact, that will have, or that might have water more than all of the water that we can find here on Earth. Yes, that is true. So liquid water means one thing: it might have life. Life might have been created there, like it did on Earth, and it might even have evolved into complex life forms which delve in oceans. Might be possible, but we never know because we don't have any missions that landed on the surface. We only have photographs, we only have pictures. So yes, unless we land something on that moon and we drill through that ice crust and we see it for real, we might not know whether there are life forms on that moon. So yes, we might probably find life in our own solar system instead of looking into deep space exoplanets. Next slide, Vishesh. Okay, now there might be people, or even you might be wondering, why alien life? You might be thinking there might not be alien life at all. We are the only life forms on Earth because we haven't found a single evidence. We haven't found a single evidence of life till now, right? With all our advanced tech, with all our advanced space exploration missions, we don't have any evidence, any scientific data or proof to support the theory that there are alien life forms out there. Now, for those, here is an answer, okay, with these facts. Now, there are trillions of galaxies in the universe, and you have to grasp these huge numbers because billions and trillions, you might have heard those numbers, but you don't really know how big those numbers are, okay? So, for example, there's a number called trillion, 1 followed by 12 zeros. If you start counting numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, since your birth, before your life ends, you might not even cross 2 or 3 billion. That's it. You won't even reach 4 billion before you pass away. So yes, these numbers are insane. 1 followed by 12 numbers. So there are trillions of galaxies in the observable universe. These numbers might not be accurate, okay, give or take, but that number is impressive. And each galaxy has around billions of stars. Okay, now just multiply both of things and imagine the number of stars in the universe. That's 1 billion trillion. 1 followed by 27 zeros. I'm not even sure how exactly do I put that in perspective so that you can understand. 1 followed by 27 zeros, it's kind of insane number. That many number of stars in the observable universe. And let's say half of those stars have planets. Okay, let's not think 9 planets. Let's say just 2 planets. Okay, minimum of 2 planets revolve around half of those stars. That itself is a huge number. Let's say around just 1% of those planets have not have 1% of those planets might be in habitable regions. Now that 1% itself is very, very huge. So with all these facts and numbers, think next slide, Vishesh. Yeah. So with these facts and numbers, if anyone says or tells that we are alone, there are no life forms, well, it doesn't really convince me or anyone else, the scientists. Now there is also another quote in one of the books by Carl Sagan, if I'm not wrong. Yes. So we are alone. There are two facts. We are alone. There are no life forms elsewhere in the universe, or we are not alone. We have companions. We have alien lives, alien civilizations out there, and both the facts are equally terrifying if you think through that. So yes, with these facts, well, I am convinced that alien life might exist elsewhere in the universe. Well, we might have found any evidence till now, but universe is huge. We can barely look at a patch of sky and find things there, right? So yeah, universe is huge. Let's leave at that. Next slide, Nitish. Okay, talking about humans in outer space. Now, when I talk about life beyond Earth, it's not that alien life, ETs, and other things, right? Because humans lived on Earth, but that is not exactly true, right? Because we also live in outer space. We have rocket launches. We launch humans to outer space all the time. And we also have a home in outer space called ISS, International Space Station. And whenever someone becomes an astronaut, and if you have to go live out there in space, you have a home there. Okay, a very huge living space kind of satellite, but satellites are tiny. I'm talking about something which is as big as the American football field. A living space of around 5 to 6 bedroom houses. Not a comfortable space to live, but you can live. You can live outside Earth. So yes, life of astronauts on board ISS. How exactly we live out there. Vishesh, I think you have another presentation. Can you open that? Yeah. Now, talking about how humans exactly live on ISS, let's talk about routine. How do astronauts wake up, live, and how do they work on ISS? So I'm not going to go in deep because we are running out of time. So let's keep it brief. Now, living in your homes is very comfortable because of one thing. What is that? You have gravity. It's very easy to get up, walk, run, jump, and do everything because of gravity. But if you go to space, well, you don't have gravity. Okay, that fact is a misnomer. There is gravity everywhere. Okay, it has to do with the way you understand gravity. But for simplicity's sake, imagine there is no gravity in outer space. Okay? You float freely, and you feel weightlessness. That is kind of very difficult if you really think through that. Next slide, Vishesh. I think we have to skip a lot of slides here. Yeah, next one. Keep changing slides. Okay. Yeah, that is ISS, by the way. Next one. Next. Yeah, waking up, working, and living inside ISS. Next one. Next. Next. Okay, now a typical day in ISS starts at 6 a.m. in the morning. Now, for those who know facts and figures and who know about astronomy and things, you know that the ISS, okay, ISS, people, a lot of people get confused with ISS and ISIS. Okay, ISIS is a terrorist organization. I'm talking about ISS, International Space Station. Okay, so ISS sees sunrises and sunset every 45 minutes, which means 9 times a day. How can you exactly keep track of time of sunrises and sets every 45 minutes? Well, they keep track of time using the watches or the clocks based here on Earth, right? There is a mission control center which takes care of the astronauts and which dictates what the astronauts have to do. So we have a huge number of people working day and night to help the astronauts to do their work and so that they can live a comfy life. So a typical day in ISS starts at 6 a.m. 6 a.m. what? Because here we have different time zones. IST, Indian Standard Time, you have EST, Eastern Standard Time, you have UTC, you have a lot of standards. So next slide, Vishesh. So the ISS, the astronauts live in ISS. They follow, I think, UTC. Next one. Yeah. So UTC, Universal Time Constraint. So they follow this standard, and yeah. Next one. What exactly do we do when we get up here on Earth? What is our routine? I have my own routine, and people have their own routines. Some people jog, some people do yoga, some people don't even wake up till 10. That's me basically. And few people eat as soon as they get up, and yeah, different routines. Now the morning routine of almost all the astronauts who live inside ISS has to do with these three things. Next slide. They brush. Okay, brushing is a very simple human thing to do, right? But it becomes very tricky if you go to space. If you brush something and if you have to spit something out, how do you do that without gravity, right? Imagine the messed up thing wherein everything, revolves around you, floats around you, it clogs the air vents and sticks on you. Gross. So how this works inside ISS? Well, they use something called as edible toothpaste. Yeah, the term itself makes me like gross up. Yeah, edible, meaning you can swallow, you don't have to spit it out. But most of the astronauts prefer to spit it out in a tissue paper and put it on the inside the garbage bin so that they can take it out during the next missions. So yes, once the brushing is done, or next, they also shower. Okay, showering is pretty easy here because we have gravity. You let the shower, you open the shower, water falls down to Earth. But what about in space? What about in ISS? Water again floats. How do we exactly shower? Now they use something called as rinseless shampoo or frothless shampoos. So these shampoos and soaps don't produce foam, which is very easy. You have to just put it in, rinse, and you take wet towels and you dry it off. Simple as that. Okay. I know not exactly the clean stuff, but it works for them, at least for them. And next. Okay, the mandatory stuff, the space toilet. That is again a very complicated business in ISS. All right, next one. Eating in space. Okay, eating here on Earth is completely different from eating there on space. Well, in fact, astronauts get different menus, first of all, okay? Next slide. Next. Keep changing, okay? I'll just quickly go through all the slides. Now you get different menus in ISS. You have a lot of different types of foods that you can think of. Natural form foods, which you can just open and eat it just like that. Best examples are cookies. You don't have to do anything with cookies. Open it, consume it. Dry fruits, and all these things come under natural foods. And you have something called as rehydratable foods, meaning you have to add water for you to consume that. The best example I can give you is instant noodles or instant pasta. You add hot water and it gets cooked with that heat and it gets rehydrated. Sorry, so that is called as rehydratable foods. And thermostabilized foods, all the meat, scrambled eggs come under this thing because you cannot store meat and eggs or something else for a long period of time if you don't refrigerate it. That is why the NASA people have a huge division for this particular purpose, okay? Processing foods. They heat and they freeze dry the foods so that they kill all the harmful bacteria that reside in the meat and eggs, and they pack it and they send it to ISIS and they heat it, they eat it just like that. Next slide. Okay, keep changing the slides, Vishesh. Yeah, fancy foods, colorful things. Next. These are all menus for astronauts, by the way. Okay, they have these things in their menus. Very colorful, very delicious. But the only problem is they get all these things. Okay, from lasagna to teriyaki chicken to turkey. But the funny fact is they get like this. Okay, it might look like a medical tray inside an operation theater, but that is their food. That is how they eat, because everything is hydrated, everything is freeze dried, everything is packed, vacuum sealed. So next slide. Even the turkey, which looks delicious and colorful. Well, the previous one. The green pouch which the astronaut is holding, yeah, that is turkey, by the way. So that is how they eat. Very boring, but yes, they have a lot of other mandatory stuff to do apart from these, simple human stuff. I'll stop till here. Let's go back to the Canva presentation. So let's talk about alien lives, UFOs a bit, and then we can end. Okay, now I hope everyone understands what is life based on Earth and what is alien life and what we are trying to do. Yeah, next slide, Vishesh. Okay, talking about ETs and UFOs, one of the interesting things that comes to mind whenever I talk about aliens. All right, ET stands for extraterrestrial, by the way. Okay, something which is outside of Earth, and UFO stands for unidentified flying objects, something which flies, which is saucer shaped or disc shaped, which flies and which doesn't make any sense, which is otherworldly, okay, which is not of Earth based or Earth origin. So where exactly did all these things start? How did people even come up with these insane theories? And people tell that they have seen UFOs, they have come in contact with aliens. Aliens have abducted people. All these things, okay? I'm talking about books, papers, articles, confessions from people, actual videos, what else? TV shows, even a lot of government people whistleblowing, a lot of interesting things. But is it really possible? Is it even real with all these evidences? So next slide, Vishesh. Next one. Talking about UFOs, people, the previous one, the previous one. Yeah. Okay, there are around 5 major events that happened in the history. Okay, talking about UFO sightings. People come up with these crazy things. Okay, I cannot call it as crazy. Might be true. Okay, we never know. So one thing that stands out from these event is Roswell event. Roswell is an army field based in the US. So what happened was they saw something flying, okay, in sky. And I'm not talking about the regular civilians or people, okay? I'm talking about the army people itself. They released a they did a press release which mentioned that they have captured a saucer or disc-looking thing, okay? Now the interesting fact here is, soon after that press release got into the public's view, they soon changed that statement saying that it's not a flying disc, it was a hot air with a balloon that they were testing. So yes, that made people to speculate and conspiracy theorists to come up with weird theories that NASA has indeed found UFO with aliens in it. They also have recovered alien bodies, and they are hiding all these bodies of aliens and UFO in Area 51. Okay, talking about Area 51, that is another interesting thing that you can debate and discuss. But again, for another completely different session. So Area 51 is kind of very interesting and exciting to talk about aliens, because no one knows what is happening inside Area 51. people have given what do you call the statements to press, like even presidents of US and other army and air force people, but no one agrees or no one even tells the truth what is really happening inside area 51. For all we know, it's just an base which does some weird or crazy inventions like advanced stuff which is really classified. So let's keep it that. So this Roswell incident happened, and the army people really changed their sentence. Like they literally changed from flying disc to hot air weather balloons. And again later, after a couple of years, they came up with another press release which said it's not exactly a random hot air weather balloon. It was a weather balloon, one of the scientific weather balloon that those people were developing. And the dead bodies, that alien bodies that the people saw, they were dummy payloads dropped from the hot air weather balloons for testing purpose. So they kept on changing the press release statements, and that made people to come up with really weird theories that the U.S. Army and the government is really hiding something in Area 51. So that literally that this event alone is responsible for most of the conspiracy theories, films, movies, and a lot of things. Next one. And this is not the only thing, okay? Because there are reports of UFO sightings literally every year, and there are a lot of organizations which keep track of UFO. In fact, you have a website and a phone number which you can call if you find any UFO sightings. With evidence, you'll be rewarded. Yes, it is true, kind of. So all these pictures, I'm not really sure if they are Photoshop. So might be true or might be false. But most of the times, what people see and believe as UFO are nothing but meteorological phenomena. Okay, the orange reddish thing that appears above the clouds, or the blue weird alien-like things which appears in the sky, those are nothing but sprites and elves. Okay, bluish and reddish thunders forms above the clouds. Okay, a very unique meteorological phenomenon. You can just type sprites and elves in the internet, and you can just study about that. So that explains those things, and other things that people saw are merely uh, what military aircrafts that NASA has developed, and hot air weather balloons, and a lot of unmanned aerial vehicles, which looks really different, most likely similar to the UFOs. So that is what people usually see and report it as UFO, kind of wrong. And there are few sightings from people which kind of actually describes what it looks like. Maybe they are making the stories up, maybe they are crazy, or maybe they are not. For now, we don't have any answers. We don't have any evidences to disprove or prove those theories. For all we know, aliens might exist among us, but nothing is for certain. Next slide. Okay, to end this session, one last thing, reaching out to the alien life. So we know that for sure, with all the facts and figures, there might be alien life out there. How exactly do we communicate with the alien life? Think of it. The aliens might not even have heads, or I don't know, maybe not even in the forms of what we depict as aliens. Might be completely different. Their technologies or their things might be completely different from what we have here. They might not even communicate with radio signals. They might have different communication systems or pretty advanced stuff than us. There might be millions of years above us in technological advancements. How do we exactly reach out to them? How do we communicate them? We know for sure, till now, we haven't had any contacts. Why is that? Because we have had a lot of missions, and we have a lot of research organizations and institutes looking out for signals. One such is SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Now, I mean, okay, for a fact, as a civilian, you can also be part of the SETI programs. Okay, all you have to do is just visit their website. It's called SETI, SETI. And you will find opportunities and a lot of other citizen scientist programs which you can take part of and become part of the so-called hunting alien programs. Now, reaching out to alien forms. Now, I'll give you an example, a very interesting and my favorite one. During the Voyager mission, and first of all, Voyager mission is one of the deep space mission from NASA, That mission consists of two spacecrafts, okay, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. And they sent these spacecrafts for a grand tour for the outer planets. Because before that spacecrafts came, we did not have clear pictures of outer planets. We did not know how the surface of Saturn looked like, how the surface of Jupiter looked like, and we had black and white photographs, and we had um, blurry photographs, but not like clear pictures which Voyager mission came. So they had to send spacecrafts. And one of the principal scientists in that mission was Carl Sagan. Okay, one of my favorite astronomer, and yeah, maybe you would know. Carl Sagan was one of the scientists in the imaging team, and they came up with this idea: why don't we put something onto the spacecraft? Because Voyager, after the grand tour, after it passes Neptune, it's going to go into deep space, meaning interstellar space. Well, actually, Voyager spacecraft is in interstellar space. And what do you mean by interstellar space? I'm talking about space between two stars. Okay, these spacecraft have left solar system. It has gone beyond the reach of our sun. It is now in interstellar space officially. Which means as time progresses, even if the human cease to exist, that piece of machinery will keep on going. Thanks to Newton's law of inertia. Something is going in space, it'll keep on going until you have a force which obstructs or cuts down. So if it goes to a place where maybe alien come in contact with that piece of machinery, we need a way for us to communicate with them. We need a message, a blank or a time capsule, which the aliens can decode and find our location. And yes, Carl Sagan and others came up with this wonderful idea. Why don't we use a vinyl disc and record almost all the sounds which makes Earth unique, and welcome greetings in almost all the languages, and pictures and a lot of other things from Earth onto this disc. And we can also put engravings on the cover of the disc so that they can decode it. Because we know those are pictures, music, and things. But how would even alien know that those are pictures? How would the alien life know that it's a disc that we have to put it on a stylus and spin it, and we have to uh, hear it using a gramophone? They might not know any of those things. But Carl Sagan and his team made sure that the aliens, if they are advanced, if they are an intelligent life form, they can decode the encryptions on the cover. So here, if you can see the picture, there are a lot of things. You have a circle, you have a dot circles, you have a point, and rays coming out of the point, and you have a square and a circle inside that, and you have something called which looks like an ECG. But okay, there are ways you can decode this. Okay, but I'm not going to explain you how you can do that. You can pretty much find it everywhere on the internet. Okay, how do you decode this? So if in case the alien life comes in contact with this disk, they can take the disk, and the disk cover has all the explanations and all the informations on how to extract information from this. So this is kind of saying hello to aliens. The hello, this is humans and we live here. If you'd like to come and take a visit, you can. And these are the things that is happening on Earth. If you are interested, please do come and have a cup of coffee. I don't know, something like that. So yes, we have reached out to aliens. This is one of the best examples I can give you. With that, I would like to end this session. So alien life, I'm not sure if you have evidence, but it might come in the future. We might have evidence and proofs to tell that alien life does exist elsewhere in the universe. So, yeah. Do we even have any questions?
Thank you, Mahesh, for your excellent, clear, and clinically oriented presentation. It was extremely helpful, and I learned many things like ISS, UFOs, ETS, and many other things. We thank you for your stimulating speech, and you really took us beyond the earth. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Apurva.
Sir,
We don't have any
students
questions.
are. Yeah, we have some questions, and I request you to answer them. Sir,
Yeah.
can you explain the relation between Arecibo observatories and alien life?
Sorry, what observatories?
Arecibo.
Can you put it in the chat?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, great question, by the way. Okay. Now, the observatory that you are talking about is, well, it doesn't exist as of now, I think.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sorry for that. I have some background noises. Give me a second.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Yes, okay. The observatory that you're talking about, I think it was an ionospheric observatory. It doesn't have anything to do with alien life or finding evidence for alien life. That observatory was built and used for a completely different purpose. Maybe they might have used it for something like finding signals in deep space, but not exactly. This is completely different. And I think this also collapsed recently. So it's a decommission. We don't use it anymore.
Okay,
Am I?
sir.
Any other question?
How do you think we will reach such far planets?
Okay, nice question. As of now, the only way that you can get off from Earth are rockets, which again works under the principle of Newton's third law. We don't have any means of transportation that you can reach space. So rockets are the only means of transportation. But the problem here is you are limited with your own technologies, right? Rockets don't travel that far. Even with the fastest spacecraft, which is I think New Horizon or Parker's Solar Probe for now, even with that speed, it will take thousands of years for you to reach the nearest star systems with habitable planets. Thousands of years, okay? And the human lifespan is very limited. It's not even a century, it's not even 100 years. So, going
Yes, sir.
and visiting other habitable worlds, it's not going to happen with the current technologies. Maybe in the far future, if we have transportations which can travel much faster, uh, maybe it is possible to reach those habitable worlds within one human lifespan. But now it's, yeah, it's impractical.
So here is the last question for you. Do
Yeah.
planets from different galaxies have atmosphere? Do they have major threat on asteroid attacks?
Okay, the thing is, you cannot really find planets in different galaxies because the Kepler mission and all the other missions only found planets orbiting stars which was inside the Milky Way galaxy. Okay, because if you look at other galaxies using powerful telescopes, you don't really see that detailed pictures. All you see is a blob of light, right? With some enhanced pictures, you can see the individual stars, but that's it. You cannot even make out what is there. So finding different planets orbiting other stars and other galaxies, it's kind of very difficult for now. And what was the last part of that question? Something with asteroids? Can you repeat that question?
Do they have major attacks on? Do they have major threat on asteroid attacks?
Okay, your voice is breaking up.
So can you hear me now?
Can you leave it in the chat if possible? Can someone type that in the chat?
Yeah, just a second, sir.
Okay, the planets from different galaxies have atmosphere. Do they have major threat and asteroid attacks? Okay, answering the first part of the question, I think I did answer that. You
Yes,
can
sir.
find atmospheres on these planets. You have methods, you have scientific methods wherein you can identify atmospheres or what kind of atmospheres does these planets have, but in our own galaxy, not in different galaxies. Coming to the major threat on asteroid attacks, I'm not really sure because asteroids are not exactly bigger than planets. You might find huge asteroids which are in orbit around stars, but that's it. Major threat to those planets, it's again probabilities and theories. No scientific evidence to prove those things. So yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for clearing the doubts. Due to time constraint, we can't take any questions now. If you have questions, you can drop them in the comment box and our team will get back to you.
All right. Thank you so much for the questions, and I really enjoyed talking about these things. Have a great day, people.
Students, you have 16 hours more for your submissions. Yes, you heard it right. You just have 16 hours more and you need to submit your submissions on the given link. You need to submit your submissions by tomorrow 10 a.m. Gear up yourself. Submit your submissions at the given link bit.ly/op21@com. And winners will be announced on 17th of October. Words fall short. Words fall short when I try to express my sincere gratitude towards Mrs. Nikita. Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving us a wonderful opportunity to host this program. It's end of the session, but not the Outreach Program 2021. Virtual Space Exploration. Let's meet tomorrow at the same time and at the same website with a new speaker and with some more interesting thoughts about satellite and applications by Sujay Sridhar, co-founder and chairman of SSERD and CEO at Space Shala. And I'm really excited to attend the event tomorrow. And I request wishes to take over. Thank you and have a great day.
Yes, with that, we wrap up the third day of our student section program. Yes, you heard it right. We've got 3 more days left. Join us on those events as well. Now, before we wrap the whole event completely for the student section, we've also got to thank our wonderful sponsors who have paved the way in us being able to reach you people, all of you, everywhere globally. That is. Okay, for that, we've got a first sponsor, Samath Academy. Samath Academy is one of the fastest growing edutech companies in India. With more than 20 years of experience in this field, Samath boasts of a strong presence, especially in Bangalore, the IT capital of India. Under the visionary leadership of Ms. Sneha Hublikar, an expert academician, Samath caters to the academic and extra coaching needs of kids from classes 1 to 12 across all leading boards of India. Samath focuses on coaching and guiding the young minds, mentored ably by the best teaching faculty who guide students to excel and break away from the normal, stereotypical role approach to studying. Year after year, the expert and experienced faculty at Samath have enabled hundreds of kids to achieve their true potential, excelling and living the dreams of academic pursuits. Come, try Samath's success experience, they say. Join Samath Academy to know much more about the whole of the educational experience, build them up, step up your experience to another level. Next, I'd want to thank the Space and the ISRO's official space merchandise sponsor. We have the next sponsor, Genex Space, which is an edtech company dedicated to creating and providing high quality all around space education and services for students and institutions. Found with the key takeaways of SSERD, a space education and outreach NGO, Genex Space is committed to igniting curiosity and preparing the young generation for the space age to solve significant challenges of our time with the help of space technology. We aim to educate and guide curious young minds to achieve their space dreams with space institutions, organizations, companies, startups, and professionals. Well, my sincere gratitude to all the sponsors for the school section. Finally, thank you to the audience there who have been with us watching the sessions, and again, thank you. Please join us today for the session this exact same time, 5 p.m. IST. See you there.